Any defamation law has to carefully balance freedom of expression, protection of journalism, as well as the constitutional right to a good name. To say our current defamation laws have gotten that balance wrong is a gross understatement. When we have people with very deep pockets potentially putting a title out of business by virtue of a successful action in the courts, it goes beyond the question of protecting a person's good name. The cost of a single case with high payouts and legal cost could bankrupt small media outlets, and even the larger media companies can only withstand so many. The financial and legal vulnerabilities of the press are well known, and they are exploited in order to suppress stories. The former FAI Chief Executive John Delaney once told his board that he was pressing on with a weak defamation case against journal.ie, quote, so they don't write anything about us. The recommendations contained in this report will go a long way towards the reform needed in defamation law. The removal of the role of juries in particular will drastically reduce the costs associated. The report did not recommend a book of quantum for damages, which would have provided additional protection against massive damages awards. The explanation given was that the reputational damage is mainly intangible and hard to put a number on. I'd like to see this teased out and a bit further teasing out during pre-legislative scrutiny. It strikes me as strange that when issues with high personal injury claims were highlighted as having an impact on the insurance industry, a book of quantum was put together. The courts managed to put a value on the loss of a limb, but putting a price on degrees of reputational damage is somehow beyond us. I'm not a legal professional, and by no means am I suggesting that this would be simple, but I don't think it's impossible either. Related to this is also the question of whether or not there should be a test for reputational damage before deciding whether or not a defamation case is taken, as is the case in the UK. I do not understand why this review may have erred on the side of caution here, because it comes down to whether the defamation in and of itself is worthy of a trial and damages, regardless of whether there was material impact on someone's life. But it is undeniable that there have been defamation cases where people have claimed their professional reputation was in tatters and were afforded high damages as a result without ever really having to prove it. The contradiction comes in where there is a recommendation in the report to introduce serious harm test for transient defamation claims. These claims make up the majority of defamation cases, often related to providing or refusing retail services, and are taken by ordinary citizens, not the rich and influential people who we typically associate with defamation cases. So we're saying that we can test and quantify reputational damage or harm caused by defamation to ordinary working class citizens, but in the case of someone with a high public profile figure and a lot of money, it's impossible to do so. If we're trying to move away from defamation law being a law for the rich, then we need to ensure we are treating everyone equally here. It's very welcome to see a recommendation for the introduction of an anti-slap defence, which would introduce the right to seek dismissal of groundless suits which seek to suppress journalists. These defences were proposed by the European Commission and were dubbed Daphne's Law after the Maltese anti-corruption journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia, who was assassinated by a car bomb on October 16, 2017. At the time of her death, she was facing more than 40 lawsuits. She described the emotional effect these cases had on her as churning nerves all the time, stating that her biggest concern is that people see what happened to me, they don't want to do it, it scared others off. We've always known the vulnerabilities inherent in our defamation laws, but there has, until very, very recently, been absolute reluctance by successive governments to act. In fact, this review, which was provided for in the Defamation Act of 2009, was supposed to take place 7 years ago. And the blunt truth, which I think we all need to acknowledge, is that it wasn't changed because the current laws benefit politicians. This isn't a party-specific issue. TDs and senators across the House have been taking defamation cases against media outlets for decades. And under the reforms recommended in this report, many of them would have been thrown out immediately. We're in somewhat of a unique position as legislators that we write the laws that shape how the media can operate, the media that holds us and everyone else in the public interest accountable. It is our responsibility to ensure that the law allows them the freedom to do so, allows investigative journalists to do their work to the fullest extent, allows the media to expose corruption, backroom deals and lies. This House has abdicated that responsibility for a long time now, so it is very welcome to see reform on the way and essential that is enacted as soon as possible. Thank you.